Hey y'all, happy Sunday. It's Trinice. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the newcomers. If you have not subscribed already, hit the subscribe button, hit the post notification bell so that you are aware when I upload new content. Give me a thumbs up if you like the content. You guys know my motto. If you don't, you have to do what? Remain true to yourself. It's been a minute since I uploaded a video, but I did give you guys a warning in my last video that I had to have a surgical procedure done, and it was done. It was successful. I am recovering slowly, but I am progressing. And then some other things happened that was not in my control. So I had to kind of just relinquish it to God, to the universe, and they had to handle it, and they're still handling it. So today I want to talk a little bit about our gifts, our purpose, and the plans that God has for our lives, or the plan that He has for our lives. On Instagram, I made a post last week. I don't know if it was last Sunday, whatever day it was. I made a post talking about 3 types of people. I'm going to add a 4th person to that list. I talked about the person who do not know what their gifts are. They just don't know. For whatever reason, it's not their fault. They just don't know what their gifts are. I can relate to every last one of the things that I'm going to name. I always like to talk about things that I can relate to, things that I've experienced, because I can talk about things that I haven't experienced, but it would be unfair for me to do that. That would kind of be judgmental, hypocritical. So I try to stay within my own path and lane. So I talked about the person who just don't know their gifts. That was me. The second person was a person who knows their gifts but just aren't using them for whatever reason. And then I talked about the person who has understood the assignment from birth. We were all given our gifts at birth. They've always knew what their gifts were. They walked in their gifts. They shared their gifts from birth. That's my son, Brandon. I'm going to talk about him a little bit in here because he's a prime example of a person who has always walked in their gift. And when I talk about walking in your gift, I simply mean you're utilizing your gifts. The 4th person, it actually comes right after the person who know what their gifts are, but aren't using them for whatever reason. So I should really say this is the 3rd person rather than the 4th person. I leave the 4th person to those who are going forward in their assignment. So the 3rd person is a person who know what their gifts are. They begin to walk in their gifts. They're on their journey, and then something happens. There was some type of disruption, interruption that made them stop sharing their gifts. I talked about this on Instagram. I always give my Instagram followers a snippet of what I'm going to be talking about. So some things may be a bit repetitive to you all that follow me on Instagram and YouTube, but bear with me. There's some people that need to hear this that have not heard this message. So there are people who know what their gifts are. They are on their journey, on their path, and something happens, some disruption, some interruption, something happens that make them stall, that makes them stop. And I know I'm always saying people are stuck and stagnant. Now, maybe I need a thesaurus to use a different word, but I like that word because people can relate to it. You're stuck and you're stagnant and you become idle. And what happens is you essentially begin to shelve the gifts that God gave you. You put them to the side. You put them up on a shelf and you said, let me deal with what's going on in my life. And then I'll get back to you, God, because you know God gifted us with our gifts. So basically what you're saying, I'm putting you on hold right now because I need to tend to some things that's going on within my life. That's the 3rd person. And I told you what the 4th person was. The 4th person is the person who are utilizing their gifts. So I want to go back to when I was a little girl. I know I always talked about teenage years, adult years when I didn't know what my gifts are, but I kind of need to lay a foundation. So when I was about maybe 5 or 6 years old, I really should have confirmed this with my mom, but I want to give it that age range, about maybe 6 years old. I was a part of a cotillion, an African ball. And my cousin, she's way older than me. she was way older than me back then. She was in charge of the dance. She was in charge of the whole thing, but she specifically was teaching us an African dance. And every Saturday, my mom would take me on Woodlawn Avenue in Jersey City to practice. And we used to practice in her backyard every Saturday for months on end. Practice, practice, practice. And it came a point when she told my mother that she didn't think I could be a part of this cotillion. Well, not the dancing portion of it, because I just was not grasping the steps. I couldn't remember them. I was not learning them. I don't know, some miracle happened that I did eventually learn the steps. I don't know how well. Maybe they felt sorry for me. I don't know, but I did end up being a part of the African dance. I do remember, I still have memory of me struggling while I was dancing to remember, and I kept looking at her for reassurance, and she was just shaking her head like, yes, you got it, you got it. The second thing that I remember that kind of played a role, it did something to my mindset, and it did something to the way that I thought about myself. I remember when I was probably about 7, 8 years old, I lived on Gifford Avenue, Jersey City. Not a long time, but I had family, my cousins, my aunt lived on there, so I always went around on Gifford. And we would have these big block parties every summer. And we had a cheerleading team. I can't remember the name of the cheer team. If you guys that follow me that was a part of it or know what it was, you can comment, let me know. The Gifford Soul Steppers, the Gifford Side Steppers, I don't remember. But they had this cheerleading team, and I wanted to be a part of this cheerleading team, but I just could not grasp the steps. I couldn't remember them. I just was not, it wasn't sitting well with me. I just wasn't able to perform it. And I remember Shonda, and I hope she forgives me for saying her name, but she was one of the team captains. And I remember within earshot, I heard her telling my cousin Tawana and Nicole that they were part of the team, that I just couldn't learn the steps. Like, I just wasn't getting it. So I remember they had to make a team B for those who just could not learn the advanced moves. I mean, although I was only about 7 years old, there were people that was 7 years old that was on Team A. So that was another thing. So I was like starting to, at this point in my life, and I think anybody at that age really don't get what gifts are and talents are, but I just was not getting it. And it began to do something to my self-esteem. And then I remember my grandfather, who was into jazz, he played the clarinet. He wanted all his grandchildren to pick up an instrument and learn that instrument. So in 3rd grade, I started taking clarinet lessons. I didn't learn one single note. I just was not getting it. I'll never forget the teacher name. His name was Mr. Fisher. All I used to do was sit in class and bite up my reed. You know, the wooden thing that you put on the mouthpiece? I would just sit there and bite up my clarinet because it just was not registering to me. Just didn't understand it. I just did not get it. There was also the double Dutch team. I'm 8 minutes in, but there's also the double Dutch team that I was a part of, that I wanted to be a part of. But again, I could jump double Dutch, but I wasn't good enough to make the team. And we would always have these double Dutch contests. I remember Gifford Avenue and Emory, we would have these double Dutch contests, and Gifford would always win. We had 3 really, really good jumpers. It was my cousin Nicole, it was Karanda, aka Mickey, she's on here, and it was also Rashida Adams. They were really, really good. All I would do was sit on the sideline and look, because it just wasn't something that I was able to do and do well. I was able to do it, but I wasn't able to do it well enough that I was a part of the team. So I said all of that to lay a foundation as to there are some people that are walking around here that simply do not know what their gifts are. Now, double Dutch, cheerleading, those are talents, but still in all, I didn't even know what my talents were. And I'm going to be honest with you, I still kind of don't know what talents I have. I know what gifts I possess because I'm walking in my gifts. So I kind of know what that is. I've discovered my gifts, but the talents, I'm still kind of teetering with that. They say cooking, but I don't think that's really a talent. My hands are really gifted when it comes to that. Anyway, moving forward. So we cannot blame people who aren't using their gifts because they don't know what their gifts are, right? So I want to use the analogy of a TV. Say you go out and buy this big, beautiful flat screen TV, and you go and you mount it on the wall. You have somebody come in and mount it on the wall, and the TV is beautiful. You can't wait to show off your TV to people that come over. But the thing is, you never ever plug the TV in. It's just sitting pretty. And that's what some of us are doing with our gifts. It's just sitting dormant in our spirit, not being used. So here's the thing. If you buy a TV, you mount it on the wall, you add the cable box or whatever it is that you do to get your TV functioning, and you never plug it in, it's just going to sit there, right? But if you take that extension cord from the TV and you plug it into the outlet, it is now connected to the source that's going to give it energy to come alive. And that is what we have to do when it comes to our gifts. When we don't know what it is, it's because we are not connected to the source. Who's the source? The source is God. God is the one who gifted us with our gifts, right? We got to understand that there's a purpose in everything we do in this life. There's a purpose. There's a plan. Look at how good God is. God, he created us with a purpose, with gifts, and a plan. He didn't just create any old thing. He did it intimately, intricately, and divinely. He created each and every one of us with a purpose. Even the animals serve a purpose. The sun serves a purpose. The moon serves a purpose. The rain serves a purpose. There's a purpose. God, listen, it's one thing about God. We do not serve a God of impulse. We serve a God of order. He does not make decisions on a whim. I talked about this in my last video, how God is all knowing. So he wrote out the plans for our lives. He wrote out the plans for our lives. So understand this. When I was born, God knew, September 17th, 1975, that Trinice L. Jackson, technically I was a Brody because my mom and dad were married when I was born. That's a whole nother story as to why I never used the last name Brody. But God knew that on September 17th, 1975, around 1 a.m. in the morning, that I was going to be born to Emmanuel and Carolyn Brody. He knew what my gifts were going to be. He knew that he was going to give me the gift of love. I talked about that in another video when I was kind of upset and annoyed with God, like, God, the gift of love, what kind of gift is that? But as I started to grow, I understood why he said he gave me the gift of love. God knew that on September 17th, 1975, that I was going to have the gift of giving. God knew, he knew that I was going to have this gift to speak and inspire others. He knew, because he's a God of purpose. God is very intentional. And everything that he does, he's intentional. He's purposeful. We are made with a purpose. We have plans. God made plans for us, but we have to fulfill those plans. How so? How so? When God gives us all gifts, right? I talked about that. We all have gifts. If we do not utilize our gifts, I promise you, any Bible scholar out there, you can challenge me on this. If you never, ever use the gifts that you have, that God instilled in you, you are not walking in your purpose. Your gifts are your calling. Some of us don't know what our callings are. We don't know our calling because we're not operating in our gifts. So let me go back to the TV. So you plug that TV in. That TV is now connected to the source of energy that it needs to work in the way that it was supposed to work. Now you're using that TV in the purpose that it's supposed to be used, right? So let's talk about the second person. The second person who know what their gifts are. They know what their gifts are. You know what your gifts are. Some of us, though, I'm talking about those who actually know what their gifts are, and they decided, you know what, I don't feel like doing that. I have better things to do. Like, I'll leave that alone. Like, I just want to do me. A lot of us are self-led rather than spirit-led. We have to make sure we are living a spirit-led life. So you have your TV sitting there. It's powered on, but you don't program it. You don't do anything so that it can work to its fullest ability and potential. Those are the people who walk around with their gifts just lying dormant. You know, to talk about the living dead or the walking dead. We're not dead, we're alive. But our gifts are lying dormant. So essentially what we're doing, we are sleepwalking. walking. We are not using the gifts that God gave us. He gave us a gift for a reason, for a purpose. Our gifts are supposed to be helping others in life. When you are a service to others, you are essentially serving God, because he has called us to be helpers of one another. Then you have that third person who's on their journey, on their path. They understand their calling, they understand their gifts, they understand their assignments. They're sharing their gifts with the world. They're helping people. But then something happens. There was a disruption, an interruption that made them decide, I'm going to shelve my gifts. I'm talking about myself, because it was a time when I was actually sharing my gifts with others. And then I became self-led. I talked about this in a few videos where I left the church. And I'm going to reiterate this. I did not leave the church because of church hurt. A lot of people leave because of church hurt. I left the church because I was leading myself. I was just wanted to have fun. And I'm going to be honest with you. You know that there are consequences for the things we do in this body. There are, the wages of sin is what? Death. I was living a life that I enjoyed, honey. I'm just going to keep it real. I'm not giving anybody a license to go out there and live any kind of way. I'm just keeping it real with you. I like to keep it transparent with you all. I was having fun. It was satisfying my body, my flesh, but not my spirit. So there are people who are walking forth in their gift, in their calling. But there's something that happened that stopped them, that blocked them. There was some interruptions. I talked about this. Outside distractions. Whether it's something that's going on in your home, work, whatever it may be, it stops you. And it may make you turn your back on God and say, you know what, God, you're allowing this to happen. I'm sharing my gifts with the world, and this is happening to me. This is happening in my home. This is happening in my body. I'm sick in my body. I lost my job. My finances are turned upside down. I'm serving you to the best of my ability, but this is happening to me? All right, God, there go my gift. You can take them. When you decide to help me in a manner that I feel you need to help me, then I'll walk back on my path. Because some of us want to bargain with God and negotiate with God. I know that was me at one time. We like to negotiate with God. If you work this out, then I'll do this. That's not how it works. Because we are supposed to still be in service to others even when we're going through. That's why the word said, do not get weary in well-doing. If you do not faint, you will get your blessings. I know I kind of transposed that, but it simply says, do not get weary in well-doing. You will reap if you faint not. Some of us are delaying our blessings. Some of us are forfeiting our blessings because we quit right before the finish line. We quit right in the middle of the journey. How so? Because we stopped sharing our gifts with the world. That was me. Then I had a friend who came along and he watered that dormant seed that was in me, and it began to grow, and it's still growing, and I'm going forth. I'm going forth in my calling. I'm going forth in everything that God has called me to do. I'm doing it to the best of my ability. So if you are not utilizing your gifts, and when I say utilize them, I simply mean sharing them with others. We have to share our gifts, guys. I said this in a video back in the summer, I believe, early spring, late spring, early summer. I don't quite remember. I talked about the basketball team. I don't know much about basketball, guys, so don't expect me to get technical with you. I'm just going to be I'm going to use layman terms. So you have a basketball team, right? And I'm talking about professional basketball players. Maybe not even professional basketball players, just basketball players, period. You have this team. You have a team full of players. They made it to the team because they have talent. They're good at what they do. But then you have those starting players. Those are the ones that are gifted. They're gifted with their hands. They're gifted, right? So you have to learn to go forward in your gifts because they're sharing with us. They're sharing the gifts. And understand this, everybody's gifts aren't spiritual. You can become spiritual with them. Because look, the scripture tells you that every good and perfect gift comes from above. It comes from God. The scripture didn't say that every gift that a person possesses is only spiritual. There are gifts that are outside of the spiritual realm. Everybody can do this. You can try it. I don't know if you will succeed or not. If it's not your calling, you're not going to succeed in it. You're not going to be successful in it. This is why you got to stay in your own lane. Stay focused on your own calling. Don't look at what I'm doing, and I won't look at what you're doing, because there's things that I cannot do. Because if I tried to be a public accountant, if I put up a post on Instagram and said, give me your taxes, I'm going to do your taxes for you, I'm going to end up in jail. Somebody's going to end up in jail with a fine because it's not my calling. So some of us are trying to walk in the shoes of others because they like what God is doing in their lives. But just know that God has made your gift specific to you. So there are people who can do what I'm doing. They're called to do the same thing I'm doing. But the message won't be delivered the same and received the same because you're talking to the wrong audience. I believe and I know that God is sending me the people that need to hear what I have to say. He's sending me those people. So let's go back to the person who began to shelve their gifts. There are people who are sick in their body, who are terminally ill. The doctor only gave them 6 months to live. Now, and I know that God can do all things. He can heal, he delivers, he sets free. I get that. So I want to talk about those people who are really spiritually minded. My pastor used to always say that some people are so spiritually minded that they're no earthly good. Because I know there's people going to challenge me and say, well, God can do this. Yes, he can. He can do all things. But it was once appointed unto man to die. So we know that we have an end to this journey on earth in our earthly bodies. So some of us are so heavenly minded that we can't see past what's in front of us because everything is focused on heaven. But we need balance in life. Everything there has to be balance because when there's no balance, what is imbalance, right? There's no balance. So you have people who are sick in their body that's going through, who know that they only have a few months to live and they will still go forth in their calling and their assignment to the best of their ability. Because why? They are living to their fullest potential. Because they are living up to what God called them to do. And we got to learn to stay focused. And we have to tune out the outside distractions. Because when you don't tune out the outside distractions, you deviate from the plan. You're still going to make it to your destiny. But there's going to be some things that you're going to encounter that you didn't have to encounter. Now, understand this. I'm not saying that even if you stay on the path that God put you on, that you're not going to go through things. You are going to go through things. I talked about this. When I was bringing forth the word in church, I was going through hell. I wanted to throw in the towel. I was depressed. I was fighting demonic spirits, but I was still going forth in the word because it was my calling. Now, people might say, well, then you was being a hypocrite because you're telling us all these good things about God, but yet you're going through. But that's life. Life happens. Things happen in this body. Things happen. We're human. So even when you have some interruptions in your home, your work life, your children, when there's chaos, it's hard to stay focused. But we got to know that we got to stay connected to the source. It's like I talked about this before, the person on that journey. You could be on a road trip and you're using a GPS to get you where you need to go. And somehow that GPS become disconnected. That GPS was your guide. At some point, you're going to lose your way. You're going to run into some roadblocks. And it's the same thing with our relationship with God. If we lose our connection to the source, we're not going to know what he wants for us to do next. That happened to me. I talked about that when I turned my back on God and I went back into the world and just was not living any kind of way because I was raised a certain way. So I'm not going to live any kind of way. But I went back into the world. I was enjoying myself, self-gratification. But we got to be living spiritual led lives. We are spiritual beings. So then you have that fourth person. And I would like to talk about my son, Brandon, the golden child. Not that Marquise isn't. Marquise is one who don't utilize his gifts. I don't even quite know what his gifts are. I don't even know if he knows what his gifts are. He's one of those ones that either don't know his gift or not using his gift. But the reason I can talk about Brandon is because I witnessed it from a child when he was a child. I remember he was about 3 years old when he started to draw. It was around Halloween time. He drew a pumpkin, some bats, some ghosts, some other things. And my niece's mother, Keisha, came to my house. She saw the drawing on the table and she said, did Brandon draw this? I'm like, yeah. She was like, oh my God, this is so good. I guess I don't have an eye for art because I was like, it just looked like a regular 3-year-old's drawing. And she was like, Trinice, you don't see this? And I'm like, what? It's a pumpkin. She said, he's good. And I just didn't see it. So as he became a little bit older, he began to share these gifts with everyone. He can dance. People might say that's a talent. It is a talent, but he's very good at it. He's blessed because not everyone knows their gifts and talents. I still don't know what my talents are. I know what my gifts are. And then the dance, he began to share his dance with the world, dancing at a Sweet 16, just dancing, period. And then anything he pretty much touched turned to gold. You know, he was MMA. He made it to his black belt. Not junior black belt, because you know there's are levels of degrees. Excellent. On fire. His Master David used to call him a firecracker. Amazing. The boy can get down. Basketball, football. He tried out for volleyball in 8th grade and didn't make the team because everything is not for everyone. And I just want you all to understand that. That's why I say you got to stay in your own lane and focus on your own path, your own journey, right? Because everything is not for everyone, right? So here you are. You have Brandon at the age of 3 beginning to exhibit his gifts. And he's actually sharing them because he began to draw people and give them away as gifts, right? So that's where I'm at. I'm at a place in my life where I'm going forward in my calling, and I'm trying to get to my fullest potential because now I'm fulfilling the plan that God has for me. And that's what we want to do in this life. We want to fulfill every single plan that God has for us. We want to live to our fullest potential in this life. When you begin to live to your fullest potential, you know you're fulfilling a plan. You know you are on your purpose. You're fulfilling your purpose on this earth. So that is my message on today. I just want you all to know that we were all made with a purpose, a plan, and we just got to stay focused on our own path, our own journey, our own gifts. Let me go back to something. I want to talk a little bit about this. I think I said this about myself, but I kind of wanted to reiterate this. When Brandon was about 3 years old, but see, God is all-knowing, and because he gifted us with our gifts, he's the creator. When Keisha came and said, oh, Brandon can draw, don't think God went back to his plan and said, oh my God, she's right, Brandon can draw. Let me go back to my plan and put it in that Brandon's going to be able to draw. And then when he began to dance, I remember my brother, he was dancing one time we had like a little family gathering on my father's side, and he was dancing, and he was amazed. And I was just looking like, he's just dancing. He said, Trinice, look at him. He can dance. And I was like, just dance, whatever. Like, you know, kids dance. And then he started dancing at his aunt's wedding. I wish I had the video to insert in this. No, I don't think I have the video. And he started dancing at his aunt's wedding, and people started giving him money. He was sharing his gifts with the world. He was sharing his gifts with others, and that is what we are supposed to do. So know this, when you stop in the middle of your journey, you stop sharing your gifts, you stop helping others, there are people that need to hear from you. Even in your go-through, that's going to be your testimony. Don't block your blessings. When you bless others, God is going to bless you abundantly. I spoke that to a friend. I don't know when the blessing is going to come. The blessing may not, and understand this, some people look at blessings as being only monetary. No. There are spiritual blessings. Anything that happens in the spiritual realm is going to manifest to the natural realm. So do not get stuck in the middle of your journey, just being idle, doing nothing with the gifts God told you, that he gave to you, that you possess. You have to still share your gifts with others. You have to. Well, you don't have to, but you should. That is what we are called to do, to share our gifts with others. Know that God is all-knowing. He does not change. So he ain't going back to the plan and saying, you know what? She won't use that gift, so I'm taking it away. It's just lying dormant. It's lying dormant. Now, if you never ever used that gift, it would be like he took it away. But you would never know if you don't connect to the source. That is my message on today. I am 30 minutes in, and I didn't want to go that long, but if it took that long, it took that long. I hope that I can be a help to someone. Someone, please take this message and apply it to your life. If you are not walking in your gifts, meaning utilizing them, sharing them with others, you're not living to your fullest potential. God wants us to live to our fullest potential. There are blessings in sharing our gifts with others. Don't always look for money. I feel like I'm not blessed because where's the money? I'm struggling. That might be something else. You might have to change the strategy when it comes to working. That might be a whole difference that has nothing to do with your spiritual gifts, right? So just know that God wants us to fulfill the plans he has for us. They are not plans of disasters. They're not plans of disaster. He wants us to live a full, productive, blessed life. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, whatever day it is that you are viewing this. Be well, be blessed, stay connected to the source. Who's the source? The source is God or the universe. You guys know I am not a person who's going to sit here and judge you for calling it the universe. Everybody, there's one God with many names. So just because you might not call him Jesus, or maybe you call him Jehovah, or maybe you call him Allah, or maybe you call him this, or maybe you call him that, or maybe it's your Buddha, whatever. I am not here to judge you. I'm just here to help inspire you to get past the hurdle that has you stopped, and or get you started, get your engine started. For those who don't know what their gifts are, it would be a sad shame for you to walk this entire earth and at the end of your journey, you did not live to your fullest potential. Because why? You did not connect to the source to figure out what it is that he wants you to do. Actually, you don't have to figure it out. Once you connect to him, he's going to start showing you the signs. Once you begin to understand what your gifts are, you're going to become very passionate about your gifts. That's why I said this is not a chore to me. What I'm doing, it comes very easily. I don't write anything down. I wrote one time, I think when I did my video on love, I wrote a few things down because sometimes I get in that mode where I'm very forgetful. But you see now it's flowing. Only thing I have here is this, the family, because you guys know what I'm going through. But anyway, that is it for now. You all have a blessed week. Enjoy your week. I hope you have a productive week. Live to your fullest potential. Help those who are in need. There are people who are in need of you. You will be so blessed. You will feel so good on the inside when you are helping others get to the next step in life, whether it's spiritually or naturally. There's people that don't know what they're supposed to be doing for work. You might be able to speak it into their spirit so that they can move forward in their life. All right, that is it for now. Enjoy your week.